as a continent, of course, most African countries got independence about 50, 60 years ago. And currently I serve as President of the General Assembly of the Association of African Election Authorities. I've had a chance to interact with my colleagues across the continent. I'm aware that the election authorities, yes, indeed, we are custodians of democracy. A number of countries are doing well, but there are also a number of countries which have big challenges where elections have not taken place for quite some time now. Military coups are still part of the day in Africa, so we cannot say we are moving all at the same time, but those challenges need to be overcome, and the regional bodies, AU and regional bodies, need to come in to really make it happen in those countries that have been left behind. However, as President of the General Assembly, I believe that we are on the right track, and most countries, and that speak for Kenya, where I'm the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. I believe we have made major strides in moving the election management body forward. One thing that must be done is to have election management bodies as independent as the constitutions of respective countries provide, and not only just independent, but be seen to be independent. And to me, that is the most important thing. Do the work with integrity, provide a level playing field for all the candidates, irrespective of which candidate. We must be fair to all the candidates. And as you put it, we must be professional in what we do. If we all do that, then elections will be free and fair and will be acceptable by all the participants in the elections. So I think Africa has made strides, and I recently went to the US last week to observe the midterm elections. Of course, that is the mother of democracy, but I think we are on the right track as far as election management is concerned. When we got independence, we, of course, chose the route to democracy, which is the route every country in Africa should choose. You get power, change of government, either through democracy or through other means, which includes military means, which to me, it's now becoming a thing of the past. Democracy is the acceptable mode of changing government and electing leaders. Given the fact that we have new constitutions, new ways of doing things, I think it's now behoves upon the election management bodies to make it happen. Of course, at the end of the day, we have issues, just like other countries have, other continents have. You see, at most African leaders, where there's incumbency, it then becomes very difficult for election management bodies because of the challenges that come when they have an incumbent in being part of the process. So we have challenges, we have issues. But because of the nature of the societies now, we are coming up. It's actually up to the election management body to ensure that the institution remains independent. So it's not that easy. I know for a fact that the US democracy was at that level where all of us respected until the insurrection happened, and that insurrection again opened and the underbelly of the US, that it is actually vulnerable. And I agree with you, the collegiate thing seems to be an issue. So for me, direct voting by the people is actually a very good thing, and we need to sustain it in Africa. Yeah, thank you for that question. And I think you speak for also the EBC, where I am the chairperson. Funding, of course, is critical. Funding needs to be provided throughout the electoral cycle. Most of the commissions, and including the IBC, for example, for the last election, we were funded in the election year only. We got the funding in the election year. All the other previous 4 years, we're only getting funding for purpose of the operational costs of the institution. But for election funding, it came in the last year. Now, what does that mean? The electoral cycle runs throughout the 5-year cycle for us in Kenya, because election comes after every 5 years. So we have programs then that cannot be implemented. For example, voter education, registration of voters, and all key pre-election activities then don't happen. And then we started running around in the last election year now to register voters, start voter education, and start procurement and all the other activities, which then means that it becomes a bit of a challenge. Although we managed, but it was a little bit of a challenge. So funding becomes critical. Governments in Africa need to understand that the electoral management bodies must be financed throughout the electoral cycle. And this is good for their democracies, for the peace of their countries. If you have smooth elections, then the country is peaceful. I think that's a message that all these governments in Africa need to understand. So funding is one of the many challenges. Of course, there are other challenges other than funding, but I agree with you. We need to fund the electoral management bodies throughout the cycle so that they can be able to prepare adequately for the next election. For example, in Kenya, the next election is 2027. It would be good if funding then starts now with the pre-election activities, which we are now currently undertaking in the post-election evaluation, and then after that, voter registration, boundary delimitation, all those activities need to be funded so that by the time we get in the election period, then the commission is ready. But if we fund them the last financial year to the elections, then it creates all these weaknesses in election management. Well, that's a good question. I believe having served as a private practitioner for many years, over 30 years, I decided that I need to serve my country in a public office, and I think that's what made me join the commission. Of course, at the end of the day, I've made my contribution, I believe, and that is, just to answer you, it was more of just joining public service to see how it is on the other side. Well, it's not about richness. In fact, what I earn as a chair of the commission, I think I was making more money as a private practitioner then in law in Nairobi, and I believe public service is just making one's contribution to the country. On the issue of inspiration, I believe this is a matter I discussed with my family. And I remember my daughter Rachel is the one who really said, you need to go and take up this job. On reflection, I believe she made that suggestion, and the family supported me throughout this entire period. However, I went into the commission. I was not supported by any political divide. Nobody talked to me when I made that application for the job, and that is how it has been for me, playing the role of referee throughout. By then, my term ends in January, and I believe I've made my then contribution to the country in that position. I joined the commission in 2017, barely 6 months to elections. We found most of the things had been done by our predecessors in office, and then 2017 came. It had its challenges. Immediately after 2017, started preparing for 2022. What did we do? I and my team then embarked on institutional restructuring. Came up, we found a commission that did not have policies and procedures for directorates. We have a total of 9 directorates, and we then embarked on coming up with policies and procedures for each directorate. So in short, we managed to do institutional restructuring within the commission, and then now embarked on stakeholder engagement with other stakeholders, all in preparation for 2022. This included the National Police Service, the offices of the DPP, the ESCC, and other institutions that are involved in elections. And among the success stories, of course, is coming up with the training manual for police, which then we managed to train all the police officers involved in the elections, over 100,000 of them. We ended an MOU with the media on coverage of results. The media is another story, because we entered into an MOU on results transmission, but I don't remember any media house coming up to say these are the results. But one major thing, which may be just in summary because it's a long story, where taken the Kenya election is to that simple word, the word called transparency. That is, to me, is a game changer for Kenya elections. We put the results out there in our public portal. All the result forms, the form 34A, 34B, and 34C for presidential results, were all transmitted into the public portal, accessible by everyone. And the results were then transmitted within 48 hours of the end of voting and counting. All the results, 99.98% were transmitted to the portal and were available to everyone. I know for a fact that there were about 380 million people who logged in and downloaded the results. So at the time the commission was finalizing on the results announcement, everybody had the results. They were out there. And to me, that is a game changer. The word transparency is what changed everything as far as our election is concerned. So going forward, we need to build on the gains made, that we have the word transparent in every aspect of the election to avoid any form of complaints by any of the participants. And for Kenya, I think if we do that, we shall have moved the commission to that level where it ought to be. You see, Jared, look at the what we went through in Kenya. The results were there. In terms of transparency, the result forms were in the portal, but still there were petitions filed in the Supreme Court. I think a total of 9 petitions on all manner of allegations, which again the Supreme Court found to be unwarranted and dismissed the petition. So what really happened here? And just maybe in a nutshell, to go into what we did, there are a lot of other things went into the preparation. So it's not just the results. Of course, the election is the register of voters, which we cleaned up and shared with the political parties. Election is about the process. For example, I'll tell you one of the things that causes rigging in elections is vote stuffing. I think we that is it is one of the issues. That then what did we do about that? We made sure that we print ballot papers equivalent to the number of registered voters. So there are no extra ballot papers. So with the 22 million ballot papers we printed, it was equal to the number of the registered voters. And we made sure that for each polling station over the 46,000 to 29 polling stations, we then gave a ballot paper with the equivalent the number of voters in that polling station. And so that there are not many extra ballot papers that could then be misused. And in that, those ballot papers were then bound in a booklet, small booklet. So it made it difficult for anybody to introduce other foreign materials into the polling station. So that then was cured. Then we had the issue of results transmission. We installed what my team calls a military grade portal, which then there were many attempts on to penetrate it, but they were all unsuccessful. So the entire process, we made sure it's above board and there was no breach. So all I'm saying here is that there will always be complaints. The loser will always complain, but if the process is transparent, and remember the political parties, the candidates, we encourage them to have agents at every polling station and give agents copies of the results. So they had the copies of results. We have results in the portal. We had our systems available for scrutiny by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court scrutinized, and we did vote counting for 45 polling stations which were identified by the petitioners, and they were all 100% correct. They inspected our transmission equipment, and they were all 100% in order, but still they complained. So I think maybe complaining is normal, but the issue is there evidence of malpractice? And for an election management body, the most important thing is to be transparent in all the processes. And with transparency, I think nothing can go wrong. And we did it in 2022 in Kenya. We need to build on that for future elections. But it's 2017 then processes, and that's why I took you to the process of how we managed the elections in 2022. A lot, of course, we learned in 2017, and we were prepared, and we prepared better for 2022. I believe what we did in 2022 is what is expected to be done by an election management body like the IEBC. And for me, I'll do the same and, of course, build on it. I'm currently working on my end of assignment notes, and I believe those success stories must be taken up by those who will come after me, and they need to build on it. Of course, there are areas where there were few challenges, I'm sure you know a number of those areas. Then that's where we need to build on to strengthen the commission. We are currently doing post-election evaluation, and yet to see the final report. Part of the reason we do evaluation is to get feedback from the field and stakeholders on some of the challenges, including the voter turnout. But during the voter registration period, some agencies carried out surveys, and I think some of the reasons you'd find include we are unemployed, we are not happy, we are not registering to vote. But now for those who are registered to vote are not turnout, of course our constitution it gives you the freedom to vote or not to exercise your vote under Article 38. And so why they didn't turn up to vote. It's perhaps we need to wait for the post-election evaluation report and see the reasons which will be advanced. Yes, the
General Assembly.
Yes, President of General Assembly, of course, being members of the Executive Committee of the Association of African Election Authorities, we came in office in Nairobi the year 2021. Then COVID came in. It's quite a challenging time then, having elections during COVID. We had also some by-elections in Kenya, which we had to put off because of COVID, but eventually then we managed to hold the elections. So holding elections in a pandemic situation was quite an experience. Of course, we had some conferences, continental conferences organized by the AU, where we shared experiences with various other EMBs. But most significant for me is, of course, other than having meetings at the executive level in Ghana, where we came up then with the idea of having a solidarity mission to support our peers having elections across the continent. I really appreciate the solidarity mission that then the AES sent to Kenya. That support from my peers and fellow chairpersons during elections was quite commendable. You need a shoulder to lean on as a chair of a commission, because it's a very, very difficult time for especially the chairpersons, or the backstops, normally the chairpersons. And most of the other chairpersons and commissioners came through other missions, NDI and the other AU and other missions which were doing election observation. So it's been quite an experience interacting with my colleagues across the continent. What we need to keep up, peer-to-peer support, very, very important, and then have these forums where we share experiences on what we are going through in our respective countries. But most important, again, bring, through regional bodies like AU, bring governments on board to appreciate the necessity to fund and support independent election management bodies, because that's the only way to have peace across the continent. Any shortcut to power by influencing election management body can only lead to instability in a country. We need to have strong election management bodies, independent, and that will guarantee peace in Africa. And of course, peace comes with development.